What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as Hamhocks42 on the internet, and we are here with another exciting installment of Overthinking MTG. Well, I say it's exciting. We will see. So let's go ahead and click that random card button. What do we got? Today we are looking at Geode Golem. This is a artifact creature from Commander 2018, and it says, it is a 5/3 for 5 with trample, and whenever Geode Golem deals combat damage to a player, you may cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost. Holy crap! That rules. Like, I almost feel the need to pause this video and and head on over to TCG Player and throw two or three of these in my cart right now. That's actually really phenomenal. Um, Wow, I can think of a couple different uses for this. So the biggest reason that I find this especially inspiring is because there's so many commanders who late in the game just become so ridiculously expensive. And that can be for a number of reasons. One, they just start ridiculously expensive. I mean, there are so many great commander cards out there that cost 7 or 8, and if they die once, all of a sudden they cost 9 or 10. That's no joke. Granted, if that's your commander and that's something that you're building around, chances are you're going to invest in a whole bunch of ramp to get there. And so, an additional two might not be the end of the world. So there's that. But the other commander that I immediately think of that needs this and needs this desperately is, well, I have a Marchesa build that I really want this in, but I can discuss that in a second. The one that I really want this for, actually there are two. One is Etrata the Silencer, and the reason for that is Etrata's ability. She's a 2/5 unblockable for 4 that, and yes, unblockable for 4. And when she deals combat damage to a player, you get to exile any creature they have and put a hit counter on it. And then, yeah, in exile, it has a counter in exile because why not? There are counters in every zone. And then if any player has 3 creature cards in exile with hit counters on them, it's important to note you can't use that tokens don't count towards this. But if you have, because tokens, the moment they hit exile, they just disappear immediately, therefore they can't have any counters on them whatsoever. But if you have 3 creature cards in exile with hit counters on them, you lose the game. But here's the part, here's the rub, here's the catch. Then you have to shuffle Etrata into your library. And in a game of Commander, you can't put your commander into your library. So as a result, the commander goes immediately to the command zone. Um, yeah, like immediately. You have no choice. Unless you have some way of bouncing Etrata or flickering her. So if you hit her with something like Teferi's Time Twist or a Crystal Shard, one of those effects that allows you to bounce her or flicker her out of the existence while her ability's on the stack, then what you get is you get every part of it except her disappearing because she's already gone. And so you end up removing the creature. It has the hit counter on it, and then you and then I think you actually shuffle your library. So you do have to still shuffle your library, but Etrata's not in it. And she doesn't go back to the command zone. Instead, she comes right back out. That's kind of your plan A. In an Etrata deck, that's what you want to do. You want to hit and you want to blink her out and get her back in some way. And in a perfect world, you have a whole bunch of repeatable ways to do that. But in a not so perfect world, having a contingency plan, because if you don't have any way to flicker her or bounce her, what's going to happen is she's a 4-drop at first, boom, you get 1 hit counter on your opponent's thing. She then immediately goes back to the command zone, and now she costs 6. Also, she doesn't have haste. So unless you have Lightning Greaves and or Swiftfoot Boots and or Crashing Drawbridge or some other haste enabler, you're going to be really out of sorts in just how long it takes her to come back online. So as a backup plan, I mean, this is definitely plan B, potentially plan C we're talking about here. Having a Geode Golem in the deck as just one more way late in the game to get her the heck out of the command zone could be really useful. And chances are you're going to have other stuff in that deck that is going to be doing crazy combat shenanigans. So being able to get it through, make sure it lands, and it has trample, there's a really good chance that it's going to anyway. That said, the 3 toughness on it, that does make it a little trickier. The other thing that comes to mind is having having this in decks where your commander is incredibly expensive right out of the gate. The very first one that comes to mind is Progenitus, which, if you're not familiar, Progenitus is gigantic. I want to say it's like a 12/12 with protection from everything. Yes, everything. It's that good. It can't be targeted. It can't be dealt damage. Board wipes do take care of it. Like that is the one way to remove it because it's the destroy effect that's not targeted and protection doesn't interact with that. But damn near everything else. Like it's this huge unblockable monster, and if you get like 2 hits, it deals the commander damage to kill somebody. Like it's bonkers. That thing is great. Now, Geode Golem, so here's the thing with Progenitus. It costs 2 of every single color. And so it is 10 mana for that, and it's 10 very specific colors of mana. So it's really hard to get. And then on top of that, if somebody does manage to wipe the board, which let's be honest, we're in a commander game, that's probably going to happen. Um, then what you can do is with anyway, if that does happen, then he's back in the command zone, or it is back in the command zone, and now costing 12. So just, oh my goodness, the price tag just gets ridiculous. So something like Geode Golem that allows you to cheat your commander uh, into play from the command zone, that's pretty rad. I like that a lot, actually. That also would work with the Dragon, which is another just incredibly expensive uh, commander. Not to mention, Zakama is another one that comes to mind. The really big badass dinosaur from Ixalan. Actually, and that big badass dinosaur from Ixalan, when it comes into play, you actually untap, I believe it's 7 lands. And so if you have Geode Golem down, you could theoretically tap a whole bunch of your lands, play a whole bunch of your stuff in your pre-combat main phase, swing with Geode Golem, get Zakama out of your command zone, and then untap your lands and basically take another turn. You know, you're not going to get another combat step, but I mean, come on, you're going to get so much value out of that. That's ridiculous. So yeah, in Commander, I love this. I absolutely love this. I think this card is great. Um, yeah, whenever it deals damage to a player, you may cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost. It's okay, you do still have to pay. Oh, you still pay any additional costs. So that leads me to believe that you're actually not going to be able to get around commander tax with this. So, okay, the Atrada deck earlier, I guess that actually would not work as well as I had thought. So please, um, there's, I guess, a moment about Atrada, public service announcement about Atrada. Geode Golem actually does not impact that the way that I had hoped. But ludicrously expensive commanders, oh yeah, get some. This thing is awesome. If your commander costs more than 6, this is probably a good value because you can play it on turn 5, swing on turn 6. There's a good chance somebody on the board is going to be you'll be able to hit somebody on the board. Geode Golem may die in the process just because of its relatively low toughness. That's okay. No, and the deck that I specifically want this in is I am currently building out a deck list for Marchesa, the Black Rose. It is a Grixis commander, which is black, red, green. No, sorry, black, red, blue, not green. And yeah, if it had green and white, it would be significantly better. But the way that Marchesa works is she has Dethrone, which means that any creature you control that attacks the player with the highest life total gets a +1/+1 counter when it attacks. And then Marchesa's other ability, whenever a creature with a +1/+1 counter dies, return it to the battlefield under your control at the end step. And so here's my thought with that. Arcbound. I want arcbound creatures and mechanical creatures. I want artifact creatures all day, every day, and then Steel Overseer. My thought is every Arcbound creature that was ever printed, a handful of Clockwork creatures, Triskelion, Walking Ballista would be phenomenal in that build as well. The idea is all creatures that come into play with the +1/+1 counter on it. That way, I'm not counting on Marchesa's ability, the Marchesa's dethrone ability, to put the counters on my stuff. I don't care about that at all. That's just gravy. Now, the only problem with that is Marchesa herself is not an artifact creature. And so, in order for her to get a counter on it, I'm going to need to attack the I'm going to need to dethrone. I need to attack the player with the highest life total, which in a perfect situation, sometimes it's going to be me, and I, obviously can't do that. But having something like Geode Golem, not only does its relatively low toughness not really matter that much because I'm going to be able to get counters onto it with things like Steel Overseer and simply by dethroning. So I have multiple ways of getting a counter onto Geode Golem. Therefore, when it dies, or if it dies, I don't care. It's going to come right back. That way, it synergizes with Marchesa because she does not have um, she does not have well, she's not an artifact herself, so getting counters on her is going to be tricky. So she's probably going to die at some point. And so being able to not pay her converted mana cost of 4 when I want to play her back out of my command zone, being able to drop her for just 2, that's pretty great. Or 4 late in the game, only paying the commander tax, being able to completely avoid the base mana cost, that rips. I like that a lot. Yeah, so Geode Golem is a pretty solid little bit player in the right deck. If you're running a deck like Eureka or actually the Titans, Croxa and Uro, if you're running those, or what's the other one that comes to mind? Oh, actually, I thought of some fun commander chicanery with Croxa too. I'm sure we'll get into that. Maybe not here, but if you're running those, Derevi, that's the other one I'm thinking of, where you have ways of cheating them from the command zone into play anyway, and they come just built in, you're not going to get any added value with Geode Golem, so it's really not worth it. Also, if your commander costs less than 5, you're not really going to get any value out of this either. But if your commander costs more than 6, there's almost no reason not to have it, because there's a good chance you're going to be able to get your commander for free. That's rad. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. So in a situation, also if you're running reanimator builds, and the reason I mentioned the Titans, you don't get to cheat the Titans out of your command zone. However, with their abilities, once they die, you want them in the graveyard 90% of the time anyway. So once they come out of the command zone, they're not going to go back into it. So the commander tax is kind of in that, like, you don't really care. That's also true for a lot of reanimator strategies. I know I have a handful of reanimator decks that I've played over the years, and 90% of the time, when that commander dies, I'm just going to let it go right to the graveyard because I'll be able to pull it out. And that is going to be way cheaper than having to pay the cost coming out of the command zone, assuming I have the cards in hand to pull that off. But then it's a matter of, okay, what is more costly for me? Spending one of these cards or spending that amount of mana? And then that can be a gut decision at the time. But Geode Golem actually gives you some flexibility on that. So even in that situation, even when you're running a reanimation style commander, when you would normally want to pull it out of the graveyard, instead now you could send it back to the command zone and get a really big discount on getting it on playing it from the command zone. I gotta say, all in all, I like this. I like this a lot, and I'm kind of surprised that I like this a lot because I have to admit there is this like small hipster part of me that really dislikes cards that are printed specifically for Commander. When a card references the command zone, I'm usually like, really? Because I love digging through my old collection and finding cards that work in weird, fun ways that the designers hadn't intended, and putting together Commander decks built around old cards that were never intended for Commander. I love that aspect of it. Magic has this big, beautiful history, and one of the joys that I find with Commander is digging into it and uncovering gems that have been lost to time and being able to craft fun, interesting builds using some of these older pieces that maybe weren't good in their time, but maybe have a place now, or maybe are fun and just evoke a certain feeling. And then I can bring that out and share it with my friends. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I love in Commander. Hell, that's the reason why I'm doing this podcast, is because I love finding that stuff and doing that stuff. And so cards that are printed specifically for Commander, or cards that are reprinted specifically for Commander, like Lightning Greaves, Soul Ring, Swiftfoot Boots, those cards that are just clearly designed. And then, of course, you have Arcane Signet, which is relatively new and is just kind of the biggest offender, in my opinion, of this. I don't love that. I don't love those cards that are just designed to make Commander optimized. I don't want that. That's not what I enjoy. And I think that's why I like Geode Golem is because it's still so specific. It does reference the command zone. Yes, it is really only playable in Commander. It isn't going to have much of an effect otherwise. If you're not in a Commander game, it's just a 5/3 trample for 5. It's just a garbage value. Unless you're playing some kind of weird Golem tribal, then I guess it has trample. Maybe that's worth it. I don't know. Probably not. But yeah, it's only really playable in Commander, but it's not overpowered. It's not broken. You don't need it in every single deck. It's still a bit player. It still has a part to play. Also, I gotta say, I really dig the art. It's just really beautiful. And the concept of a golem that is made of a large geode is just kind of cool. I dig geodes. I think they're beautiful. It's a lovely aspect of nature. It's a beautiful thing, and when you do see one, it's just lovely. It can kind of capture your attention and kind of make you go, huh. And I appreciate them. I think they're really cool. It's one of those things, if I had all the money in the world, I would probably have at least one behind me on stream right now. Of course, I certainly don't. So as you can see, instead I have board games and teddy bears because, hey, I don't know. I think they're fun. And they're cute as hell. Don't judge me. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. It's been a pleasure as always. I will catch you next time. Oh, plugs. I almost forgot. Twitch.tv /hamhawks42. Check me out. It's fun. I'll catch you later.